Welcome to a solo playthrough of Crusader Kingdoms: The War for the Holy Land from Worthington Publishing. Here, let me tilt up the. So there's the box. This game came out a couple of weeks ago. I have actually played it maybe 7 or 8 times over the past week and a half. And when I say play it, I've played the solo version. The game comes with three different versions, three different playable versions. One is just a simple straight up solo, one solo player versus the Muslim bot. The Muslims are always the bot. The next version is there's a cooperative two-player version versus the Muslim bot, where each of the Christian players play a different kingdom, play on the board. They still use this board and then draw from the same deck and play the game. The third version is obviously the two-player game where players vie against each other. And frankly, that's the way the game was designed. And I say three modes. There's actually four modes. I apologize. There's the two-player versus mode, and then you can do two Muslim players versus two Christian players and do that way as well. But what I was saying was the game, I think, was designed for the two-player game. It is a card-driven game. You have cards, they have events. You don't have op points necessarily. You have army points. You draw those army cards. You can use those to then assault Muslim strongholds. You roll some dice. You have event cards, or response cards they're actually called, and they can modify die rolls. They can take away a die. They can remove a card, etc. And then you have kind of your standard event cards. Here, let me show you one. And what I'll do here, I'm going to tilt it back down so you can see the board. And I'm going to move my dice tray right here into the Mediterranean because I want you to be able to see the rolls. And I'm trying to give myself some room here on the left side to be able to play and not totally take over the camera. But here's an example of an event card. It says event on the side. It's green. Pilgrims, draw two cards from the Christian draw deck and add them to your hand. Simply a card draw. Here's an example of a response card. Champion, you can change one Muslim shield result on the die to a Crusader shield result of your choice on your die roll. So those are important. And then here's some examples of these troop cards. Turcopoles, there are knights, peasants, armed pilgrims, and they all have a value. You can see their troop cards. They all have a value. When you decide to attack, let's say I'm attacking, and I'll show you, this is actually the hand of cards that I drew for myself. If I'm attacking, you have to attack adjacent, so I'm pointing here to Marah, and Antioch is the goal. I want to either attack there or I can attack Turbessel, but I want to take out Antioch. Antioch is kind of a battleground area. It's going to continually be fought out throughout the game. Once it's won by one side, it then becomes a launching board to get at other locations. Obviously, the Christians' goal is to make a run to Jerusalem. This is the first crusade. This board is actually, you can play the first and third crusades on, which are both the players versus the bot. But you're trying to make a run to Jerusalem to gain victory points. The more areas you control, and there are some that have different values, there's some ones. Antioch is a 3 victory point city. Jerusalem is a 3 victory point city. Edessa in the upper left there is a 2 victory point city. Accra, Tripoli, and Latakia are also 2 victory point cities. Everything else is 1 victory point. So at the end of the game, you're going to total your victory points and compare it against a sliding scale. Basically 15 or higher, you have a major victory. I think it's 14 to 10, a minor victory. Anything less than 10 is a failure. The Crusades fail. So yeah, you're going to try to run down the coast. You're playing against the bot. It's card driven. So that's kind of the summary. I'll talk about the elements as I play through. This game can be played through, once you know the rules, in about 30 minutes. It's only 3 turns. You can see there, 1, 2, 3. There's a white cube marker. I'll talk about that later. But there's 3 turns. A turn consists of the Christian player at the start. drawing 12 cards. So I've got my hand of 12 cards here. I draw 12 cards. I play first as the Christian player. The Muslim player is going to draw 8 cards, and each turn after the Christian player plays, you simply turn one of those cards over and do what it says. If it's an event, you take care of it. If it's an army, you roll a die to see if they will attack. If it's a response card, you can add those to armies, or you put them in the Muslim response card waiting area until certain conditions are met. Here, this is wrong. Your cards can be increased or decreased from round to round via event cards. My honest opinion is you want to try to drive the Muslim card hand down. They start with 8 cards. By the end of the game, potentially you can have them down on the 3rd round, drawing only 6 cards. And I'm telling you, that is beautiful, because that's less actions they get to take. There's also a Christian card that you can force them to discard a card. So theoretically, if things go well for you, you can get them down to 5 cards. If things go poorly, they can get up to 10 cards, and that means they're taking 10 actions. The Christian player starts with 12 cards, so you have 12 different cards to play. You can increase yours by 2, so you can get up to 14. But my strategy is to decrease the Muslim deck size rather than increase my own, because there's an event that does either or. So with that being said, combat's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and put my dice tower there in the middle of the Mediterranean. Cool dice, they are custom dice. So here you've got 6-siders. There are 3 Christian shields on the dice, which result in Christian hits during battle. And then there are 3 Muslim shields that result in Muslim hits during battle. It's you roll your dice, you get 2 hits. The Muslim rolls their dice, they get 2 hits. A tie means the defender wins. The player that has the most hits wins that battle and either fends off the invasion, or if you win, you replace their castle with your castle. Just a real quick look at the components, and I'll do a review of this also. This is just a little castle or a parapet. Wooden, very well done, kind of a cool 3D component. I like those. And then you have these garrison markers. You're not going to get many of these throughout the solo game, maybe 1 or 2. You also can use that to mark your number of cards. But that's pretty much it. So once again, the game plays in about 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and run us through this. I will try to explain things as I go along. The rules are very simple. Going to be honest, it's not a very difficult game. But after I do this playthrough, I want to do a quick review and share my thoughts with you about how it plays, what I like, what I didn't like. And then Alexander and I need to play the 2-player version because, frankly, as I mentioned, that is what this game is designed as. The solitaire mode, I think, was added on, and they planned for it. They gave you an entire board and set up the system, but I think it's going to shine when you're playing your opposed opponent, and they've got cards and you don't necessarily know what is coming. So let's go ahead and get started. So once again, I've drawn my 12 cards. I'm going to kind of lay them down here on the bottom of the board. I can't get everything in, but I will show you them as I go through and play them. So what happens is when I draw my 12 cards, what I'm going to do is lay them out based on the different types, either events, troops, or responses. That way I can see them and I know what I've got. So ultimately in this hand, what I drew, quite a number of troops. So I have 7 troop cards. I happen to have a couple of knights. There I have 2 knights. I have 2 armed pilgrims. I have a peasant, you can see as a worthless card. And then I have 2 Turcopoles. So I'm going to be able to do 3, maybe 4 attacks, depending on what cards I end up getting and whether I get lucky or not. I also drew 3 event cards. Crusaders, best card in the game. This is a card that I hope comes up every turn. Secession is also very valuable because I can get new cards out of my deck. And then Pilgrims allows you to simply draw 2 cards as your action, which is very important. I also got a couple of response cards, Champion and Militia. I showed you Champion before. Militia add 2 dice to the defense of a castle in response to an attack. So as the Muslims attack me, I can play that card to fend them off. So let's see, what is my first play? And once again, one of the things that I like about this game is you're trying to kind of cagily play against the Muslim hand of 8 cards. So you're trying to understand how things go. As you play along, you're going to understand, oh, they've played a bunch of their troop cards. The reality is they may not have many more troop cards. So you kind of want a perfect situation is where I force the Muslim player to get all their cards played or most of them played because I've discarded them, or they don't have as many as they normally do because of their card bonus negatives. And then I might have 5-6 cards that are uncontested, and I know that there's no events coming out. I also know that they can't attack me back. So that's kind of what you want to happen every turn. It doesn't always happen that way. So my first play, I'm going to go ahead and play Pilgrims, where I'm going to draw 2 cards from my deck. So I draw 2 cards. Okay, I drew 2 events. Not bad. Raid is a good card. It's going to allow me to discard a card of the opponent. And Citadels is going to allow me to add a die to the defense of my castles. A good one, but not my favorite. I probably will use Secession to go ahead and discard that, but let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over the first Muslim card. This is a response card. When the Muslims draw a response card, it goes into the Muslim response card box. So this card says, surprise sortie. The attacker must remove a troop card of his choice from those attacking the castle. So I'm going to have to, when I attack, and anytime I attack with 3 dice or more, they are going to play a response card, and they're going to play the top response card. So I'll want to plan for that. So let's go ahead and put that in the response. My second play, so it comes back to me, I'm going to go ahead and play Raid. So I'm going to choose a player. I'm going to choose the Muslim player. They must discard a card at random from their hand. So I pull their 8 cards. I'm going to give it a very, very quick shuffle. Nothing real fancy. I'm going to pull out from the center. And so I drew a response card. Defensive battle. Add 1 die to the defense of a castle in response to an attack. Not terrible. But anyway, so this one gets discarded. It's going to go into their discard. So it's back to my turn. I'm going to go ahead and play my Secession card. And Secession says you can replace up to 3 cards from your hand, including this one, with new cards drawn from the deck. So I don't really need the peasants. The peasants are bad. I could use it. Once again, remember that surprise sortie. That might be a best use of that card. Throw that in the battle and know it will come out. But I'm going to go ahead and discard it. And then Citadels, I'm not really necessarily worried about their attacks this first round. Sometimes their troops can build up, and they'll get 2 or 3 cards and have 5 or 6 strength. That is when I'm worried about it. When they draw a single card, they may or may not attack, and it's always not that hard to defend at first. So I'm going to go ahead and discard these 3 cards and draw 3 cards in replace of them. So I drew 2 additional troop cards, which is good because I gave a peasant up. So I drew another 2. And then I drew Relic, which is it's a very good response card. I have to play this at the time that I declare a battle, though. That's the problem with these response cards. You play them, sometimes you end up not needing them. But after seeing the rolls of an attack, I can roll all my dice again or force my opponent to roll all their dice again. So I now have 3 response cards. That's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another Muslim card. All right, so they drew their Turkoman's 3 value card. It's going to go into the Muslim army or Muslim troop in play. We are going to roll this green die, and what I'm looking for is a number less than the total value of the troops in this box. Currently, there's 3. If I want them to attack, they're going to attack on anything less than, on this die roll, less than their troop value. I want them to attack simply because I believe I can fend them off. So let's go ahead and roll. So they rolled a 4, therefore they're not going to attack this turn. So that army's simply going to sit there, and now I go back to my turn. So I'm going to go ahead and play my Crusaders card, which says all Christian attacks against Muslim players or independents, there are no independents in the solo game, add 1 extra die. So I'm going to get an extra die every time I attack. So I'm going to play that up there just to remind myself. And that's going to carry out through the entire rest of this turn. It says stays in play for the entire turn. So that's a good play because I'm going to do 3 or 4 attacks and get that extra bonus die. And it's important to remember it's only on attacks. It's not on defense, only on attack rolls. So back to the Muslim player. They drew another response card. This is not great. I'm hoping to show you guys some different things, but we'll get there. So after an attack, so once they attack, they may retrieve to their hand one of those participating troop cards. The rule that it's not explicit in the rules, but I always try to give them the best card. So if they have a 3 and a 2, I can't have them keep the 3. It's not really clear. I guess the player could choose, but that's what I thought. So anyway, this is going to go into the response card area on top of the existing event. So it's going to cover that one up. Only one event can be played per turn. So that's sometimes a good thing for you, sometimes a bad thing. But know that these cards are going to stay from turn to turn and build up unless they are used. So that's the Muslim turn. We go back to my turn. It now comes time to attack. So one other thing about these, you'll notice you can see in these territories. So this is Accra. They have a shield with a number in the middle. There are actually 3 numbers in each territory on this side of the board. The defensive value, so that number inside the shield simply tells you how many dice they are going to roll when you attack them. So Accra is a 3. There's also a white number inside a green circle. That is used for priority designations for the solitaire bot. For instance, when they draw a card that says place a garrison or a circle piece into your lowest valued city, you're going to look at the numbers. More often than not, it's going to be Jerusalem and Kerak. Or the other way it's used is when they are going about attacking. So when it's the Muslims' turn and their troops are activated, they will attack the lowest priority value area that the Christian player controls. In almost every case, it's going to be Antioch after it's been taken. So that's usually your first play. I'm going to try to take it here in a moment. So it goes on that priority, and they're always going to attack the lowest. If you control Jerusalem, the Muslims are going to come after Jerusalem because it's a 1 value. Antioch is a 5. All the ones around it, with the exception of Turbessel, will see Antioch attacked first. Turbessel is then attacked if it's controlled, etc. I'll show you that as we go through. So that was the Muslim card play. So I'm going to go ahead and attack. So Antioch is defended fairly well. Remember, I have +1 die for my Crusaders. So I'm going to play a knight and a Turcopole. So I'm going to throw 6 troops at Antioch. I'm going to put those in my discard pile. So that's going to give me 6 dice, +1 for my Crusaders. So I'm going to roll 7 dice. So bam, 7 dice. Remember, I'm looking for the Crusader shields. All right, so if you can see the results, I rolled 4 hits. So now they are going to defend. You look at the response. They didn't have any responses that could be played this turn. So they're just going to roll their 4 dice. All right, they only rolled 2 hits, therefore I won. I remove the Muslim castle, and I go ahead and place my castle. So that's all that happens during battles. Fairly simple. Now, during the game, I will say this. Your card bonus will increase and decrease based on whether you take territories. So when you take a territory, I think the opponent's going to lose a card or you're going to gain a card. So in the solo game, that is not the way it's set up. It doesn't play that way. So that's not the way we're going to do that in this solo playthrough. So that's my turn. 1 attack. It was an adjacent territory. You always have to attack something you can reach. So now with Antioch, now that I control Antioch, next turn, I can go for Aleppo, Latakia, or Turbessel because those are all 3 adjacent. My goal, once again, remember, is to try to get towards Jerusalem. So I'm gonna try to move to the east, actually to the south, and get Latakia, followed by Tripoli, then Accra, and then I'll be at the gates of Jerusalem. So back to the Muslim turn, we're going to draw one of their cards. They drew a 1. It is added to the available troops. Now their number is a 4. I'm looking, if they're to activate, they need to roll a 3 or less on this 6-sider. So they roll a 5. They're not going to attack. Not the best thing. I don't like it to build up, but 4 is manageable. So let's see what I'm going to do. So I have more troops. I also have, remember, a couple of response cards. I will use those if I feel there's a key battle here. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Latakia. I'm going to play 5 cards, 5 troops, plus 1 for the Crusaders. So I'm going to have 6 dice. So that's 1 less than my previous, but they only get to roll 3 dice, as the shield says 3 there. All right, good roll for me. I got 4 hits. And these dice are really nice and chunky, as you can hear them going down. So because I have 4 hits and they have no response cards, they can't defend. So I can go ahead and roll their dice just for fun. They rolled 1 hit. But when you have 4 hits, they can only roll 3. There's no need for you to even roll. You know, we all know that. We can do math. So I now control Latakia. So I control 2 spaces in addition to my starting space of Marat. At this point, I have 6 victory points. So I'm on my way to gaining victory. So that's my turn. If you look at my hand, I still have 4 troop cards, a 4, 2 3s, and a 2, and I have 3 response cards, 2 that are offensive and 1 that is defensive. So I will make sure and use those. You can carry cards over. I don't always like to, unless it's a really good card or I know something that's going to happen. So let's go ahead and draw the next Muslim card, and we're getting down to their bottom. Seduction, the hated seduction. Draw a random card from a player and add it to their hand. So they're going to draw a card from my hand, which sucks. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle these up, give them a good shuffle. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one, so I'm going to add this to their hand. They got my champion card, which is not great. I'm going to go ahead and just blindly shuffle those. It's hard because they have the same backs, so that's what I got. I know it's coming up the next card. So that's their turn. I hate that seduction card. Hate when that thing comes up. I'm going to play a little game of cat and mouse here. I'm going to take my Turcopoles with my +1 from Crusaders, and I'm going to attack Turbessel. You might ask, why are you doing that? Well, Turbessel has a lower priority attack value than Antioch, and I'm trying to stave off this bigger attack coming against Antioch. I would like to not have to retake Antioch. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Turbessel. I have 3 dice. I'm going to roll. I got 2 hits. Wow, my dice are really doing well. They're going to roll 2 dice. They have no response cards that work at this point. They rolled 1 hit, so I won at Turbessel. It's kind of funny. You're probably watching this going, wow, this is kind of a cakewalk. It really is not like this. I'm rolling very well. Typically, I do not roll this well. So I've now taken Turbessel. Once again, the priority or reason for that is where they will now attack, because they attack the lowest numbered priority circle on the board that's controlled by the Christians on their turn. So let's go ahead and draw the next card. I drew another response card. This is a bad one for me because it's going to add 2 dice to the defense of a castle in response to an attack. So the next time I attack, they're going to play that and they're going to add 2 dice. Not a huge deal. I'll need to make sure and compensate for that, but it could cause me some trouble. So back to me. I'm going to go ahead and attack Tripoli. I'm going to use 7. So I'm going to use 7 troops. I'm going to throw those right there as a reminder. Remember, that's 7 dice plus Crusaders, so that's going to be 8. I'm going to go ahead and play my Relic, which, remember, after all the dice are rolled, I can decide to force them to re-roll or re-roll my dice. But I have to play it, and if I don't use it because I beat them or they roll poorly, it's going to go in the discard pile. Now, in response, because I'm attacking with at least 3 dice, they're going to use their militia. They're going to add 2 dice to this attack as they defend. So they're going to roll 6 dice. So that's not great. So I'm going to roll 8. 3. And there are 8 dice that come with the game. Okay, I got great rolls, frankly. I got 5 hits. That's amazing. So 5 hits. So we got to remember that. And that's something I wish maybe there was a tracker for. You could use the die. I will. I'm going to go ahead and put that 5 hits just to remember that. So now their defensive value is 4. They're using the militia event, which is going to add a couple of dice to that. They're going to roll 6 dice. So they're going to roll 6. And remember, I have 5 hits. I want them to get less. Okay, I did well. They only rolled 3 hits. I rolled 5. Therefore, I defeat Tripoli. Unfortunately, my relic card was unused, so it goes into the discard pile. You have to commit those. I think that's an interesting design choice. I think that really makes you think hard about whether you need those cards or not. Now we're going to go back. We know that this is my card, which sucks because it's now going to stay out and it's going to stay out of my deck. So champion, and I got to remember to get that back once they eventually use it. So it's going to go on top of the response card stack. And when I attack with 3 or more dice, they are going to use that. Okay, so Muslims have 1 card left. I have 1 troop card, and I have a defensive card, but they haven't attacked me yet. So that it is what it is. So with only 3 dice plus my 1 for Crusaders, maybe I should try to target an area that is only 3 dice. I could do Accra. I think I'll probably go ahead and just attack Accra. So 3 plus 1 for Crusaders. I'm going to roll 4 dice. I don't have a response card that works. They're going to use the topmost response card. They can change 1 Muslim shield result to a Crusader shield result. But you flip that around, 1 Crusader result to a Muslim result. I rolled 3 hits, guys. So I continue to roll very well. They're only going to roll 3 dice, but they can, remember, change 1 of those to their side. So we'll see how that, well. So they rolled 2 hits using the champion event that they stole with me, or stole from me. They're going to change 1 of those Crusader shields to a Muslim shield. They then successfully defend. My attack fails. It happens. Now we go to the final Muslim card. It is an event. Immediately increase the card bonus by 1. So they're going to actually get this move up to 1, and they're going to get a bonus card next turn. So interesting, they didn't attack at all because my dice rolls were poor when I was using them to decide whether they would attack. I took over 4 territories, you can see. Right now my victory point total is a 9, which is pretty darn good. Now we're going to go ahead and get ready for the next turn. I will not... Actually, I am going to carry over militia. I think I'm going to carry that card over. So what happens when you carry a card over is that you draw 1 less card or 2 less cards, depending on how many cards you carry over. So I'm going to go ahead and carry the militia card over, mainly because it gives me a bonus in defense. And I know with that big stack of troops there, with 4, they're going to draw something, a 3 or a 4, and all of a sudden they're going to be rolling 7, 8 dice. I could use some extra dice to then defend myself. So I'm only going to draw 11 cards this turn. So I shuffled the deck up. So there's 11 cards. This is the discard pile for the Muslims. It's going to get added to the cards off the board. These event response cards are going to stay until they can be used, and these troop value cards are also going to stay. So they don't have to draw less cards based on cards that are out. That's a rule for the bot. And they're also going to draw 1 additional card this turn. They're going to draw 9 cards. Most of the time when I play this, by this point, I've got them down -1, so they're only drawing 7 cards. So that was kind of unlucky, but that's okay. So we're going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because they have a bonus one. Face down, haven't looked at those. I can now look at my cards. So I'm going to go ahead and try to sort them out. I drew that champion again. I drew my all-important Crusaders card. I drew Citadels, Secession and Templars. I drew Walls. Surprise sortie. Man, I did not draw many troops, so that's not good. So now it's my turn. I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to do Secession. Remember that card that allows me to put 3 cards in my deck and draw 3 cards. So I'm going to put a Peasants away, and I'm going to put this Walls, which allows me to add a garrison to an area, which a garrison is one of these circle pieces. It's just a troop, and they're going to add a die to a single combat, and then you're going to throw them back into that pool. I don't feel like it's that important. So I'm going to go ahead and discard these 3 cards and draw 3 new cards, hoping to draw some troops, which I did. So I drew a knight and an armed pilgrim, and I also drew this pilgrim's card, event card, that I can draw a couple of cards, which is good. I still don't have a... So that's my turn. I played that. So let's go ahead and draw. All right, so they drew the Seljuk nobles. So that's going to be added to the current troops. So you can see 8. I don't have to roll. They're going to attack. So they're going to attack with 8. Yikes. And they're going to attack the lowest priority area. Lucky for me, the reason I took Turbessel is because they're going to attack there, because Turbessel has a 4 priority value versus Antioch's 5, which means they're now going to attack there. I'm okay with that. They're going to roll 8 dice against my 2 dice, but at least they're not taking Antioch with that huge storm or wave of people. So let's go ahead and roll their 8 dice. They're also going to use that top response card, which is going to allow them to take a troop card of their choice, and I think it's put it back into their hand. So it's going to go back into their deck. So let's go ahead and roll their 8. I have no shot of winning as long as, well, actually I do have a shot of winning. Do you see that dice roll? They only got 1 hit. So potentially, and you know, any game that has dice, this is what ends up happening. So I'm going to roll 2 dice. All I need is 1 hit. Bam. I defended. So I literally defended against a huge army led by Saladin. And I said, no, 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 you can't have Turbessel. And they lost. So these 3 cards, they are all Muslim cards. They're going to go into the discard pile. They're going to play this card called Regroupment, which means they can choose a card of their choice. They're going to take Seljuk nobles. That card goes in the discard. We're going to put that in. We're going to shuffle it up, randomize it, and we're going to put that back. So that was their turn. They attacked, and we successfully defended. Amazing. You won't see that very often, I'm going to be honest. So let's go ahead and use our Pilgrims card to draw a couple of cards. Cards are always good. I'm hoping to get some more troops. I did get an armed Pilgrims. I also got that cool raid card, so I can strip them of one of their cards. Now we go back to the Muslim player. They drew Commerce. Immediately increase your card bonus by 1. They're going to move it up. They're now going to draw 10 cards. That's not good for me, but it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and play Raid. Remember, choose a card from them and discard it. I'm just going to take their hand. I'm going to shuffle it very quickly. And I'm going to reach in. I'm going to draw a card out. I draw out a 2 Ghazis, which is a troop card. That's my turn. We go back to their turn. They draw a Turkomans. It's going to go into the Muslim armies in play. We're going to roll this dice. Okay, a 5. So they do not attack. Remember, we had to roll a 2 or less for them to attack. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use Templars to go ahead and decrease their hand size because that's getting out of control. I also could increase my hand size, but remember, the fewer cards they can play, the better. So now they're only going to draw 9 cards next turn versus 10. We go back to them. Defensive battle. This is going to add a die to the defense of a castle. If they win that, they're then going to increase their card bonus or force me to discard a permanent card played on the table, like Crusaders. So that's going to go on top there. That's okay. What else did I want to do? No, I don't have that. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play Crusaders. So I'm going to play Crusaders to the table. Remember, that gives me +1 card. We'll go back to the Muslim player. They draw a Seljuk Nobles. They add that to the current existing. That brings them to a 7. Once again, we don't have to roll. They're going to attack, and they're going to pick on Turbessel again. But I'm going to go ahead in response, and I'm going to play Surprise Sortie. The attacker must remove a troop card of their choice from those attacking the castle. So I'm going to assume that the Muslims would not want to lose their 4 value card. They're going to lose their Turkomans. So now all of a sudden they went from 7 dice down to 4. You might also say, well, why did you do that, Grant? Well, I don't know. I did it just because I'm trying to show you some of the things that are happening. And remember, last time they rolled really poorly. Maybe they're going to roll poorly again. They roll 4 dice. They get 3 hits. I'm going to go ahead and also play, and I should have played this when I played that other card. I'm going to add 2 dice to the defense of a castle in response to an attack. You shouldn't be doing that, but I forgot. So they got 2 hits. I'm now going to roll 2 dice for Turbessel, plus 2 dice for my militia. And I'm going to roll 4 dice, hoping to get 2 hits or higher, which I do. I rolled 3. So wham bam, I am defending Turbessel with my life, which doesn't happen very often, guys, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go ahead now and play Citadels. Add 1 die to the defense of all castles for the rest of the turn. So this is one of those permanent cards that's going to be played out. They draw a Ghazis, which is a 2. So if I roll a 1, they're going to attack, and I do. I rolled a 1, and I'm totally okay with that because that's not very much power. Oh, wait, it's turn 2. Sorry. They're going to attack Turbessel, rolling 2 dice. They got 1 hit. I have 2 dice for the defensive value of Turbessel, plus I also have the Citadels card, which gives me another die. So I'm going to roll 3 die, hoping to get 1 hit. I got 2 hits. I defend myself. I hate this is going so easily because you guys are going to think that this game is dumb, but it's really not a dumb game. It's very interesting. I have found it very fun to play. All right, back to me. I'm not going to mess around. Maybe I shouldn't. All right. So I'm going to attack with 6 troops into Accra. +1 for my Crusaders. That's going to give me 7 dice. And I'm going to go ahead. Nope, I'm not using that. I'm going to use that against Jerusalem. Hopefully I win. So we're going to go ahead and use 7. I rolled 4 hits. Very, very good. Remember, Accra only has a 3 defense. Therefore, they cannot even roll in response. Actually, they can. They have a response card that they're going to go ahead. So I rolled 4 hits. They've got 3 dice plus a die. They're going to roll 4 dice. How many hits did I say I had? 4? Okay, they only rolled 2. It doesn't matter. I win. That's the problem with shooting these videos. I kind of get ahead of myself sometimes. So I took over Accra. That's a big victory. 1, that's a 2 VP city, and now I'm able to attack into Jerusalem next time, and I have a lot of good attack cards. I think that's going to be a pretty easy victory for me. Although I got to remember, they've got the Surprise Sortie card, so they're going to make me remove one of my guys, which frankly stinks. Let's draw the next Muslim card, Raid. They're going to choose a player, and they're going to discard one of my cards. They would only choose me. I randomize my cards, shuffle them up. Let's pull that card, so I lose an Armed Pilgrim. Not great, but we'll see. That's their turn. So knowing that they have that Surprise Sortie and they're going to force me to remove one of my guys, I know that I've got to go ahead and do an all-out attack. So I'm going to attack with 10 troops. Remember, they're going to use that Surprise Sortie, which says the attacker must remove a troop card of their choice. So I lose a 3. That goes in the discard. I lose one of my armed pilgrims, so all of a sudden I went from 10 troops down to just 7. I also get 1 extra die for a Crusaders, and I'm going to throw Champion in there, which allows me to change a result from a Muslim shield to a Christian shield. So that gives me basically a bonus hit. So I'm going to go ahead and roll all 8 dice against Jerusalem. I rolled 4 hits. My Champion is going to be used to change one of those to another. So I got 5 hits. I'm going to mark that here with this green die. And they can't roll higher than that because they only have 4 dice that they would be rolling. They have no cards out. So this game is going, it is a total cakewalk for me, which is really not representative of how this is. I remember I played, I'm going to guess 4 or 5 times before I really came close to really getting a major victory. My first couple were failures, and I think my next 2 or 3 were kind of that middling victory. The game is challenging, but once you learn certain tricks and things that you need to do, it becomes a little bit easier. So we're going to draw one of the 2 remaining Muslim cards, add 1 garrison marker to the castle of your choice. Well, they don't get to choose. You're going to put this garrison marker in the lowest priority valued city, and that is Karak. So they're going to put a garrison in Karak. That's simply going to help them. I have no cards, therefore we go ahead and draw the final Muslim card. It is a 2 value Ghazis. We're going to roll this die. We rolled a 1, so they're going to attack. And I'm okay with that because once again, that helps me. So they're going to attack Jerusalem because it has the lowest valued priority of a 1. Remember, normally they've been attacking Turbessel or Antioch because they're a 4 and a 5. Now we've got Jerusalem. They're going for Jerusalem. So one of my next strategies will be to go ahead and try to take Karak, because I don't want them to be attacking Jerusalem regularly and beating me there. So I'm going to try to take them out there, maybe starting in the next turn. But let's go ahead. They're going to attack with 2 dice. They don't gain any bonuses. They rolled 1 hit. I have 4 dice for Jerusalem plus 1 dice for citadels. So I have 5 dice. I rolled 2 hits. So I fend off their attack. That goes to the discard. The turn is over. We go to turn 3. I'm going to get the discard pile of mine. I'm going to shuffle it in. I played a lot of cards that turn because I got a lot of the cards that allowed me to draw cards out, which is always a good thing. I like to also make sure these are really shuffled well because, you know, if you put the cards on the bottom and you shuffle them on the bottom, they're never going to get out of the bottom. So I'm going to draw 12 cards. 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to get the Muslims discards and add those to their unplayed cards. I'll talk a little bit about the Muslims in this game. In the solitaire game have 20 cards. They remove, I believe I want to say 4 or 5 cards from, there are 27 cards for each side. So they actually remove 7 cards that are more designed for a 2 or a 3 player game. So they only have 20 cards. The Christian player, I believe, has 22 cards. And they remove a certain amount of cards as well that were designed for the 2 or 4 up to 4 player game. So the Muslims are now going to draw 9 cards. 9 cards. I'm going to look at my cards. Sorry. This is the part I wish I could edit it out, and I'm just not that sophisticated. We at the Player's Aid don't necessarily do that, so you have to bear with me. I find myself talking to fill the space, and you're probably saying, just shut up, Grant. Yeah, my card draws this time aren't great. I didn't get any knights. I did get good event or good response cards that should help me fend off attackers, but I didn't get my good cards that allow me to draw more cards, which is a little bit of a bummer. For my first play, I'm going to go ahead and play my walls. So remember, this is a card earlier that I wasn't excited about getting. I'm going to add a garrison to the castle of my choice. Because they're going to come after Jerusalem, I'm going to throw that in there because that just gives me a bonus die. We're now going to draw a Muslim card. They draw a Sejuk nobles. We're going to roll this green die to see if they attack. They do attack. They roll a 3. They're going to come from Jerusalem. I can actually go ahead and eliminate that attack totally. I'm going to go ahead and use my champion. I'm going to change one of my die rolls to a positive. I think that probably will be enough. They're going to roll 4 dice with no bonuses, no cards. They roll 2 hits. I'm going to roll 4 dice plus 1 for my garrison. Probably too much. They only rolled 2 hits. I rolled 3. I wasted my champion, but that's okay. I fended off this attack. But I do lose that garrison that I just placed there. So that wasn't necessarily ideal, but it is what it is. So that goes in the discard. That's their turn. I'm going to go ahead and reduce their card hand by 1. At this point, it doesn't necessarily matter because they're not going to draw more cards, but it does factor into the final victory point values. There's an additional victory points for the difference in the Muslim hand size and the Christian hand size. So that's I'm going to go ahead and just reduce that. So they draw a Turkomans, which is a 3. I'm going to roll this. A 6, they're not going to attack this turn. I'm going to play Crusaders, which gives me a +1 to all of my attacks. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and, before I do that, I'm going to play Citadels, which is the defensive card because they're going to start attacking me now. We go to the Muslims. They draw a 3. We roll a 6 because it has to, and they roll a 3, so they're going to attack. They're going to attack with 6 dice on Jerusalem, which only has 4. I have the Citadels. I'm going to go ahead and play a surprise sortie. So I'm going to play this card and remove one of their 3s. Man, that would suck if that was a human player. I'd be so pissed. It is what it is. So now they're going to roll 3. They got 1 hit. I'm going to roll 5. 4 for Jerusalem, 1 for Citadels. And I got 3 hits. I defend their attack. Man, I'm really upset that they're not defeating me at all, ever. Next, I'm going to play my Crusaders card, which is going to aid me in my attacks. I'm probably going to have 2, maybe 3 attacks in this game. Militia is going to add 2 dice, so that's going to go into the Muslim response area. It's going to add 2 dice when I attack them, which is okay. It is what it is. So now as I look around the board, I'm looking at the areas that offer the most victory points. So I'm going to go for Edessa up in the upper right corner. It is worth 2 victory points, only has 3 defense. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play a 3 and a 2. So that's going to give me 5. Plus 1 for Crusaders. That's going to give me 6. So I'm going to roll 6 dice versus their 5. Should I throw in? I'm going to throw a peasants in there. So I'm going to roll 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dice versus their 5 because they're going to use their militia. Okay, so I got 4 hits. Not bad. Usually when I roll, guys, I get such terrible rolls, but 4 hits. Let's go ahead and remind myself I got 4 hits. So once again, Edessa is 3 defense. They're going to discard their militia, which adds 2 to their defense. They're going to roll 5 dice, looking for at least 4 hits. And they got it. They rolled 4, so they defended. That card really helped them. So all my troops are wasted. They go back to the discard. Now they're going to draw a card. So they draw a Turkomans troop. That's a 3 value. They would be targeting at this point, once again, Jerusalem. I rolled a 3, therefore it's equal. They don't attack. So I'm going to go ahead. Crap. All right, I'm just going to take a risk here. I'm going to use this Armed Pilgrims, only the Armed Pilgrims, plus my Crusaders versus Edessa. They have no event cards, which is a good thing. I'm also going to use my Relic, which allows me to look at the rolls and then decide, do I want to re-roll. So I'm rolling 4 dice, and I got 2 hits. So I've got 2 hits. So now they're going to roll 3 dice. They got 2 hits. I'm going to go ahead and have them re-roll. Sorry, well. All right. Hey, it worked. You can see in the reroll, they only got 1 hit. I had 2 hits. Therefore, I win at Edessa. I pushed them out. I claim that. And the relic card really saved me. It allowed me to re-roll, which is good. And I took a risk, you know, and that's the thing. I think this game has a lot of tactical choices that during the first play you're not going to understand, but it's like a press your luck concept. How much risk am I willing to run with my limited amount of troop cards? I only have 5, maybe 6 troop cards per turn. Am I going to just overdo it and do 7, 8 dice every time? Or am I going to be strategic and tactical about it and think, oh, I think I can afford to only do 5 dice this turn rather than 6. Therefore, you can maybe have some more cards at the end that you can ultimately do more attacks. More attacks leads to more success. Therefore, is going to lead to a higher victory. So I like that. I still have a 3 card plus my Crusaders. I'm still going to be able to attack at least once. Their next card is a Turkomans. That's 6. So I'm going to roll that dice. Frankly, I'm hoping to roll a 6. I roll a 5, so they are going to attack. Looking at the priority, they're going to attack Jerusalem. They're going to have 6 dice. I have nothing that I can do. They rolled 5 hits, so I can't even defend Jerusalem. Therefore, I get destroyed and pushed out. Actually, I can. I forgot I have my Crusaders. They got 5 hits. I get to roll 4 dice for Jerusalem plus 1 for Citadel. I don't roll 5. I'd have to roll 5 hits. It's not going to happen. So they do defeat me, and they recapture the city of Jerusalem. Very hard for me to go back in there. But I'm probably going to try it. I think it's probably worthwhile. Remember, I have 3 troops plus the 1 for Crusaders. So I'm going to roll 4 dice. I'm going back into Jerusalem. I only rolled 1 hit. Not great. They have 4 dice. They roll 2 hits. They fend off my attack. So that's an example. You know, I pressed my luck. I tried to make it happen. It didn't. It is what it is. I forgot to put those guys in the discard. They drew a response card. The attacker must remove a troop card of my choice. You know, that's great because I'm not going to be attacking again. I have no cards, therefore I pass. They go again. They draw a Gazis. I'm hoping that they roll low. They rolled a 2. They're not going to attack. I was hoping they would attack because that 2 power is not going to do anything. They draw a peasant, so they now have a 3. I'm hoping this die comes up a 3 or higher. And it does, therefore those troops are going to sit there and not attack. So there we go. Now what we do, all we do, is we total up the victory points from our controlled areas. Losing Jerusalem was big. That was 3 victory points. Our hand size differences are 0. We both are at our start hand size. So that's not going to add anything. So I'm just going to count up the victory points. So I've got 2 for Edessa, 1 for Terbessel, that's 3 total. 1 for Marah, that's 4. 3 for Antioch, that's 7. 2 for Latakia, that's 9. 2 for Tripoli, that's 11. 2 for Accra, that is 13. I, once again, don't get any additional victory points for my hand size being higher or the difference in that hand size. And we'll go to the handy dandy victory chart. So 11 to 14, I had 13. I had a marginal victory. The position of the kingdom of Outremer is not very strong and their future is uncertain. So in this playthrough, I had a marginal victory. You can see, had I held Jerusalem, and maybe I should have not futzed around so much with Terbessel over here and saved some of those cards, but 6 of one, half a dozen of another, you never know what's going to happen. That's why dice are great, because they're randomizers. I like in this game that you can mitigate some of that risk by adding event cards and these permanents that play to the table that provide you benefits. So there you go. I think this video is about 54 minutes long. I think I would have played that in 30 minutes had I not had to stop and show you every card and discuss the results and my strategy. But I gave you an example of how to play the game. I showed you that it's fairly easy to learn and understand. The entire rule book is only 16 pages. So it's not very hard to get through the rule book. And then there's about a page and a half worth of rules for the solo mode. Simple game, guys. Simple solo mode. I think it's interesting. I've now played it, I think, 8 or 10 times. There's 2 concerns and 2 complaints that I have. One, I would like to see a randomizer for your position setup. Maybe they should have drawn this map where there were 3 or 4 regions where the Christians could have come on. Maybe they would have come on at Acre, taking a card penalty. Maybe they could have come on at Edessa, gaining a card advantage because they're further away from Jerusalem. Maybe then you had Marah as an example and you don't gain any advantages, but you can increase that difficulty. I guess you could do that kind of on your own. The second thing is, once again, there are only 20 Muslim cards, and there are there's 27 of both, but that's only for the 2 or more player game. 7, 8. Yeah, so there are 21 cards in this Crusader deck, the Christian deck. My only problem is I feel like I see the same cards all the time. Maybe they should have added 5 to 10 cards, or maybe they should have, I don't know, provided additional options where you could build your deck or something of that nature to try to improve the replayability of the game. I would say that if you're buying this game only for the solo mode, I think it's solid. You're going to play it about a dozen times, and then I think you're going to start to although it's quick playing, you're going to start to see the same cards over and over again. I know these cards now by heart. I know everything about them, and that's okay. But that's something I would have liked to have seen different. So maybe a little bit different starting position, maybe some different cards, some additional cards. Other than that, I really enjoy the solitaire game. It's interesting. It's easy. I can play it in 30 minutes. Bam, done. Worthington also makes really cool games. These games are very interesting. This is a different subject. Jesus Peralta is the designer, and this game is pretty interesting. I'm very much looking forward to playing the 2-player game with Alexander, because once again, I believe that's the way it was really designed, was to have 2 players. I think that's where it's going to shine. So there you have it. My thoughts on Crusader Kingdoms, the War for the Holy Land, the solo play mode. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was instructive. I hope it helped you to learn the rules. We didn't cover every single card that could come out in the game. We got through most of them. But I showed you all the rules. I even talked to you about strategy. I think this is a game that you can pick up easily from watching this video and kind of move ahead. So there you go. I'm actually going to turn the camera off, and I'm immediately going to shoot probably a 10 to 15 minute review video where I talk a little bit more in detail about some of the mechanics and some of those items that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to stick around for that, go ahead. But I appreciate you watching. Thanks for the support that you give Alexander and I. We do appreciate it. The kind words, the donations that we do get from our Patreons and others. We appreciate it because it allows us to buy equipment and games, and frankly, we like to build the community. I hope this game draws in some new players. I think that's what it's intended for. I think it's an introductory level, simplified war game on a very cool subject. So thanks for watching. Stick around for the video review if you want, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.